We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
It is Sports by the Book on an NFL Sunday. Happy to be with you. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White is here as well.
Voice is coming back a little bit.
It's still bad. It's still bad. We'll get there. I'm off Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll figure it out on those 2 days. Alex, let's
Lots of tea.
Yeah. Well, or whatever this drink that I have next to me that usually works pretty well. All right, let's. It's not alcohol, guys. All right, let's get into today, Alex. I will say with college yesterday, there were really nothing crazy yesterday.
There was a period throughout the day where those games were really bad. They were all blowouts. And then we got
actually took a nap yesterday for 30 minutes. That's how bad some of those games were for a little bit. Yeah, no, it was pretty ridiculous. By the way, my list, Alex, I know we talked about this the other day. I am down 13. Doing math on the air is hard, guys. 16, 17, 19. I'm down to 26 teams for the 14 spots in the or the 12 spots in the college football playoff. So a few were eliminated, at least in my book, yesterday.
Navy, of course.
No, they're not. They're still on the list.
Okay.
They still have a shot. Would need help, but still alive. If they went out, get some help, they could get there. Now the Dukes of the world, sorry, Ann. Missouri, they're gone. A few other teams were eliminated yesterday for good. All right, well, enough of that. Let's go to a league where there is 14 teams in the playoffs. Let's go to today in the NFL. Vinny Magliulo will be with us in about 15 minutes to give the behind-the-book perspective, but we'll give you ours to kick off the day, and we begin with the biggest favorite of the day. That is the Detroit Lions. Boy, what a difference it is now in the NFL, where I can say the Detroit Lions is the biggest favorite of the day, and I don't even flinch. That's how different things are now, Alex White. Lions 11.5 against the Tennessee Titans, who are rolling with Mason Rudolph for the second consecutive game because of the injury to Will Levis, and quite frankly, it might be a while before we see Will Levis again. Alex, let's look at this from Detroit's standards here, where the Lions next week play Green Bay. This is a weird sandwich game where they had the big divisional game on the road, handled that, winning in Minnesota a week ago. They get the Packers next week in a gigantic game as well. But here you are playing arguably one of the 5 worst teams in the NFL in your house today as a big favorite.
It's really tough, right? Because, I mean, the Lions are that much better than the Titans. I think the number is correct. But with that sandwich spot, that would lead me to the Titans. Mason Rudolph didn't help that offense like I thought he would last week. They were hung around in that game against the Bills. And it was really the defense. And I talked about the Titans defense last week about, they're number one in total yards allowed. But offensively, they're 31st. So they really just can't get anything going. So this is a stay away for me between these two, because I do just think that the gap difference is there. But I'm not ready to lay that 11.5 with the situational spot. Especially the big trend right now is after playing the Lions to fade the next team, right? And we saw it again with the Vikings losing on Thursday. So teams that have played the Lions are 0-6, I believe, the next week. What about the Lions? That was a very emotional and physical game for them, too, as well, against the Vikings. So I'm not ready to lay that 11.5. So nothing for me in this one.
All I'll tell you is if that trend's going to continue this week, Tennessee would have their work cut out for them, because it could be the two worst teams in the AFC next week in Nashville with the Titans and the Patriots, the matchup for that one. So it might be a little bit of work on that front. If that Lions play the Lions, lose the next week streak is about to continue. I do agree with you again. This. We're going to see how evolved Detroit is at this point, because this is a classic sleepy spot. You're at home. You're playing. Yeah, I know the game last week was an early kickoff, but you're playing in the early kickoff slot. You get Green Bay on the road at Lambeau next week. By the way, after that, they go on the road to play Houston. So 2 mega road games back-to-back for Detroit. And here you are with a game at home after a huge road game a week ago. Mm-hmm. It's a very peculiar spot. Now, again, it's very different when we're talking about the pros as opposed to college, where, like we saw yesterday, we saw Ohio State really mess around in a sleepy spot yesterday against Nebraska. They were fortunate to get out of there with a win, where they'll play Penn State next Saturday. By the way, Penn State will have to monitor Drew Aller throughout the week, since he injured his knee, didn't return, but Penn State's offense still looked pretty good in the second half in a win against Wisconsin. But you're in a scenario here where I want to see how evolved this Detroit team, how evolved this culture is. And I know people will say that, well, what are you talking about? They're playing one of the worst teams in the NFL. But this is a classic sleepy spot. The Lions are the favorite to score the most points in these games here on Sunday here at the South Point at 9-1. They're also the favorite to score the first touchdown in the 10 a.m. Pacific slate at 7-1. So there's a reason for that, even with a low-ish total of 45 for a game that's lined 11.5. It would only be a look to Detroit for me in this game. I'm not going to bet it. I don't like laying double digits in the NFL unless if it's an all-time bad team on the other side, and Tennessee's not close to being that bad, Alex.
Which way are you looking at this more for my first half perspective? Maybe the Lions start slow in this sleepy spot, and you can get 7 here.
It's a good question,
with
Alex.
The Titans, or do they try and come out fast and then kind of take their foot off the gas?
Let's go with Tennessee's perspective more so than Detroit's real quick. Last week, Tennessee won the first half in Buffalo. They're up 10-7 at halftime. Did not end 10-7 in Buffalo a week ago. They got outscored 27 rock in the second half, losing 34-10. So, look, that's a lot of points in the first half in an NFL game. A whole touchdown. It would probably only be a look to the Titans in that scenario. And then, yes, that would make my bet bad, because then you get a better number in the second. Yes, I understand people that may be thinking that in their heads, but it would only be, I don't know how you can lay a touchdown in the first half against, again, Tennessee's bad, but they're not a complete pushover.
No. And I think that's what happened with their defense last week. They were just on the field too much against an elite Buffalo Bills offense that has been playing very well. So kind of fell apart in the second half. So that would be the lean for me as well, taking the 7 here with the Titans in the first half.
Let's go to game number 2 on the board. The Cleveland Browns, who will start Jameis Winston today. And it only took Deshaun Watson getting hurt in order to figure that one out for the Browns. It's 8 behind us. There's a lot of 7.5 juice to the underdog in the market now. So this has been steady traffic on Cleveland from as high as 10.5 all the way down to this 8, 7.5 in the market. The interesting thing in this game is this total's been bet up from 42 to 45. Now, of course, the last time we saw Baltimore, they were putting 41 on Tampa on Monday night. I actually agree with the total move. It just, Cleveland's offense cannot get worse than it's been with Deshaun Watson. And look, I love Jameis Winston. But you and I both know that Jameis Winston is capable of scoring points for both teams.
Yes.
We know Jameis Winston. The man had a 30-30 season, for goodness sake, in 2019, a 30 touchdowns, 30 interception season, which will never be matched again because no one will be allowed to throw 30 interceptions in an NFL season again, probably. I bet Cleveland early in the week, Alex. I think you're at the point now where you just can't force it on the Browns. If Baltimore comes out, scores early, and the number pops back up to what it was earlier in the week, all right, fine, maybe hop an in-game. But these numbers are just too far gone at this point. The one thing to monitor on the Baltimore side I will bring up, Zay Flowers, who is active, is battling an injury that he suffered on Monday night, lower body injury for Flowers. So just keep that in mind today. Maybe, again, worked out on Monday night. I might be on Bateman props for the second consecutive game here for Baltimore.
I'm with you. I am on Cleveland in this one. I took the 9 when I could. You're right. I mean, the Browns' offense can't get any worse. Right now, they're 32nd in total yards per game.
Is that good, Alex?
30th in passing yards. So I imagine this team is going to rally behind Jameis Winston and really try their hardest. I mean, this is a division game. They're going to try and get this win here and be in it until the end. Defensively, they have fallen off since last year, but they're still an elite defense. Total yards allowed, they ranked 13th, 11th against the pass, and 15th against the run. So I think they can keep it close in this one with a new starter under center. But offense, I mean, the total as well, I agree with it too. Because if you do like the Browns and think they're going to get some things going offensively, you got to like the over.
It is one of those weird ones, right, where normally you'd be dogging under in this, especially when you're getting that many points in a 45. But I tend to agree. The way Baltimore's offense is they're just crushing right now. Since, honestly, you can even include those first 2 weeks. It was really just the fourth quarter against the Raiders where they just forgot what they were doing. Baltimore has rushed for at least 150 yards in all of their 7 games so far, Alex White. They're one away from tying a franchise record, which was in 2022, where they went 8 consecutive games. Since 1950, there's only been 2 teams that have started a season with 8 games of rushing for 150 or more as a team, and neither of those are Super Bowl era teams. 1960 Green Bay, 1956 Chicago. That's it. That's how dominant this Baltimore run game has been. And look, that is the one concern against going against Baltimore in any circumstance this year. They put you, even though they've messed around sometimes in fourth quarters, Derrick Henry's in a close game probably going to put you away more likely than not. So that's again the one concern here. Touchdown 7-14, and then you're in trouble there.
Well, in running the ball right, you would think they'd be more of an under team, but they are 6-1 to the over because they're just so efficient on offense. But it's crazy, too, because we talked about their historic defense last year, and now their defense has really slipped up, and they're 24th in total yards allowed. So we've seen those backdoor covers as well with this team where they've let teams hang in there in the fourth quarter. So could go either way. I'm not jumping to go over that 45, but I do think Cleveland hangs around.
Let's go to Jacksonville next. The Packers will take on the Jaguars in this one. It's been all about Jacksonville in the market here, Alex. Down to 3.5 now. Open 4.5. Toggled the initially from 4.5, 4. Now 3.5. I know this may seem crazy, but I think part of the market on Jacksonville is that there won't be any carries wasted on ETN here today since he will not play. Look, Tank Bigsby's been great. And I just wonder, though, from this perspective, where this is another sleepy spot here for Green Bay, where they beat the division-leading Texans a week ago at home. They have Detroit on deck, as we mentioned. Now you go on the road to a warmer climate, humid climate, not normally used to this at this time of the year for Green Bay. But Jacksonville, other than last week, has really looked terrible for the most part this year, Alex. So there's a lot of things going on in this game that makes this a very interesting handicap today.
Well, it does. And Jacksonville somehow is 2-1 in their last 3 games. And I think that's why this number is so low. But
yeah, I guess they are. I didn't even think about that.
But I'm not buying it still. This is still one of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, they're 31st in opponent passing yards, 28th in total yards given up. And then they're in this small group with just Carolina and Washington allowing their opponents to score touchdowns on 30% of their offensive drives. So I think the Packers will be fine. I know it is a sleepy spot, but they did mess around in that game last week. They lost the turnover battle. They still found a way to win the game. So I don't think they'll be too complacent here. I think they're going to try and clean up a lot of those mistakes. I laid the 4 here with the Packers.
Yeah, the biggest concern for you, Alex, is Frank Nicotero's on Green Bay this week as well. I'll just say this for Green Bay. This is another one of those we mentioned with Detroit. It's a little bit of a different circumstance here because unless if something really ridiculous happens, Tennessee's not walking into Ford Field and beating the Lions. You can make the argument for Green Bay having a sleepy spot and going to Jacksonville and losing today. And for Green Bay, where, look, this has been a very bizarre season by any way you stretch it for Green Bay. You lose your quarterback week 1. You win the 2 games with the guy who's not an NFL quarterback at QB for Willis. And then Love comes back and is dreadful against Minnesota until the game was out of hand. I know Green Bay only lost by 2, but it was 28-0 in that game. And then ever since that pick 6 in L.A., where Love just made as bad of a play as you can possibly make as a quarterback in the NFL, the light bulb went back on for Green Bay. And I know they only won by 2 last week. It was a weird game. They turned the ball over a bunch. That kept Houston in the game. They needed McManus to make a kick at the end. But this team's really good. They are a legitimate Super Bowl contender in the best division in the NFL right now, in the NFC North. This is just a weird spot today. That's why in the end, I did take 4 with Jacksonville, but I took it small because I just don't have a ton of confidence here. Green Bay, if they show up, very easily can win this game by multiple scores today.
That's a great point. And I did lay the points with the Packers, but these I'm not betting as much as I bet on college.
Smaller bet. That's the theme for today. There are bets, but they're not full unit plays here today. So just keep that in mind if you're going about it on your end. We do have money on it,
yes,
but they're not as confident as the other ones that we had yesterday. Alex had a good day yesterday, by the way, folks, if you were listening to the show. All right, let's go to Houston next. Texans 5 against the Colts. Has been one-way traffic on Indy in this game from 6.5 at the peak down to 5. Jonathan Taylor's back. That's the big news on the Indy side. Still no Nico Collins for Houston. This is a rematch. Indy, of course, falling to Houston week 1 at home. Texans won that one by a deuce. Indy covered as a 2.5-point underdog. We love that when we have the dog in that game, Alex. I'll just ask you. This is the first week with rematches because we have 3 of them on the board today. How do you handle this, especially early in the season where obviously if a team meets in September and a team meets in December, teams are going to look pretty darn different more likely than not. Teams are still relatively similar other than the Collins injury on Houston's side here today.
This is tough, and I think I handled it the opposite of how I normally would, but I went with the over in this game because of how these 2 defenses have looked lately. And, the Colts, they play the second quickest in the NFL at 26.8 seconds per play. So I was expecting more points. I made this game 50. I went over that 45.5. But typically the second time they see each other, you're looking more for the unders. But nothing for me on the side. I think that number is just right.
Yeah, this would be only a play on the underdog, even at the worst of the number here for me today. This is the big question, as always, now with Indianapolis, is what are we getting out of Anthony Richardson, who has to be treated like a rookie, even though he's technically in his second year. Yeah. Now, last week, it was ugly. Honestly, that whole game last week was horrendous. That in Miami with the backup quarterbacks in Indy.
Yep.
Anthony Richardson was 10 for 24 for 129 yards. Now, the biggest thing last week is that Richardson didn't turn the ball over, which if he turns the ball over, that's obviously bad news for Indy because that defense isn't any good either. You have to imagine Indy's offense gets a gigantic boost with Taylor back because they've really gotten nothing out of Goodson and Sermon, and the backup running backs have really struggled in the games that Taylor's missed, 3 straight going into today. So it would only be a take with the points. And you know what, Alex? I'll say this with Houston. They're going to win that division. They're the best team in that division. They're 5-2. But they've not, other than the New England game, have they really looked like a high-end team? Not really.
No, and I think it was more on Green Bay last week than even them hanging in there.
Look, and credit their defense for being opportunistic in that game a week ago. I thought the Packers should have won by a lot more than 2 when it was all said and done. But you look at the rest of the games, beat Indy by 2, that ridiculous Bear game on week 2 on Sunday night where they only won by 6 when they dominated the game. Minnesota dominated them. They needed a last-second touchdown to beat Jacksonville at home. They needed Buffalo to completely forget how to manage the clock to win that game at the end. Other than New England, this has not been a high-end team so far this year. So, again, I'm not saying Houston isn't going to the playoffs. They are. They're the best team in that division. They already have 5 wins. 9 is more than enough to win the AFC South this year, and they probably will get to 10 when it's all said and done at least. But be careful with Houston. They just have not looked the part so far.
Are you talking us into a 2-1 money line here on the Colts?
I'm not doing that.
Okay.
I'm just this long term.
I was almost there.
Long term on Houston. All right. Let's hit one more, and then we'll bring Vinny on. Tua Tagovailoa returns today in Miami. It's 4 with the Dolphins against Arizona. Vinny and Chris actually made this point the other day of this feels like a little bit too much now that the market has taken it from going from Huntley back to Tua. Yeah. And Alex, I have my concerns about Tua for a lot of reasons here. Let's just take the football end of it, forget the medical end of it.
Yeah.
The game and a half that Tagovailoa played this year game and 3 quarters before suffering that concussion against Buffalo, Tua did not play well. He was awful in that Buffalo game, threw multiple interceptions, of course, a horrible pick 6 in that game as well. And the Jacksonville game, really, other than the long touchdown to Tyreek Hill, Miami's offense didn't do much of anything in that game, even with Tua in the lineup. I think this number is too high, even at 4. Now, Arizona's defense is not good, and they're coming off their best performance of the year last week. So there is obviously a little bit worry with that. Also, short week for Arizona. But I think this is too many points. I'm not saying Arizona's going to win the game outright, but they should be able to play this game tight. I would take the Cardinals only here in this one.
And that's a little bit of a lean to the under here for those reasons as well.
Because, 2.5 points down, Alex.
Yeah. And I understand that because I do think it's going to take some time. But, I mean, Tua is such a huge improvement for this offense, and it will get them going again. And one thing that hasn't really been talked about is the Dolphins' defense throughout this. I mean, they have really kept them in games, and they're 4th right now in total yards allowed, 1st against the pass. So I do think it's going to be a tough matchup for the Cardinals. I'm not jumping on taking the points. I lean to the favorite here, and Tua really giving this team a big boost. Favorite and under is my leans.
I think the under is probably good even at 46. Yeah, I will say this. If you've been waiting to bet the Tyreek Hill touchdown for a month plus now, you finally get back in. You're still getting a plus price in most shops today. So,
or just waiting for some production in your fantasy team.
Well,
from Tyreek Hill. There we go.
No one cares about
Tua's back in my lineup, by the way. He is getting the start.
No one cares about either of our fantasy teams. They only care about Frank's fantasy team, apparently, on the stream. All right, we'll take a quick break and we get back. Vinny's on set. We'll get every game from the behind-the-book perspective, and then Alex and I will continue through all the games here on a Sunday. Week number 8 in the National Football League on Sports by the Book.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White, Vinny Magliulo. We're all here on an NFL Sunday. Vincenzo, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Alex, good to see you. Good to be with you. I know it's busy, so
Rattle them off.
run down the current numbers here and what's happening. How about that? So
Sounds
we'll start
good.
with the Titans-Lions, and the Lions opening 11.5. And again, numbers here at South Point open on Sunday evening after the late game halftime. So 11.5 there. Got up to 12 and kind of toggled back and forth all week. Sitting at 11.5 now, 45. Not a lot of movement, just a little tick down to the under here presently. Ravens-Browns, big game here in turn. And this may surprise some folks. So Ravens, a 9-point favorites on the opener, got as high as 10, a quick 10.5. It's been all about the Browns. In fact, right before I came into the studio, I was back with Chris, Ashley, and Joe, and there are a lot of Browns on the side and Browns on the money line even. So 9, as I mentioned, as high as 10.5 midweek, down to 8. Browns are getting the betting attention and over in this game with Jameis Winston going at quarterback for the Browns. Total up 3 points to 45. Packers, Jaguars. Packers as high as open 4.5. Probably overall two-way, but a little bit more interest in the last half a day on the Jags. This game 3.5 and 49, so not a lot of movement on the total. Colts and Texans, again, both teams, and I heard what you mentioned, Jeff, about the Texans maybe not living up to what a lot of people thought they would. But look, let's face it, they've got a much more challenging schedule this year. Their success last year prompted a more challenging schedule. They both have injuries. I think there's more injuries still on the Texans side. No Nico Collins. Looks like Taylor's going to be back at running back for the Colts. This game from 6 down to 5, 45.5. Just a little slight move to the under. Cardinals, Dolphins. And, with Tua being back, one of the things that we were asked as a follow-up to when Chris and I were with you on Friday, Jeff, was and Chris had the great point, too, about talking about, well, when he went out, what was the adjustment, right? And at least 4 points, and then maybe, depending on the opposition, 4.5 or 5. When he comes back, I only adjusted it a couple of points because I want to see. It's not just a flip of the switch, okay, he's back in, so the adjustment that you made when he went out is going to be necessarily the same adjustment coming back in. So I appreciate the folks asking that question, and also the folks in the chat who participated the other day, and they were interested in that. But this game, 3.5 up to 4. We need the Cardinals a little bit in this game, and I don't think that's really a surprise. 46 for the total, which is down a couple of points.
Really interesting, really quick, Vinny.
Sure.
What about Jameis Winston? Because I feel like we're all kind of just putting him into this spot, but he hasn't played in quite some time either. So we got to think of him like a preseason quarterback as well.
Great point, Alex. I just think that the folks went with the fact that it was just such a big move and a double-digit move to the favorite on the road, and that maybe that something may galvanize this Browns team too. So again, I think purely a play on the number and the circumstance, still getting better than a touchdown. So not really a surprise to thinking that maybe Jameis gives an infusion of some energy. So I think that's probably what some of the bettors are thinking there. Falcons, Buccaneers, we talked a lot about and everybody has about the Buccaneers wide receiver situation, where, again, last Sunday night they opened as a favorite. Of course, you hold up on those games from our side of the counter once the game starts. And because of, as a caution to what exactly happened, right, with all the injuries, particularly to wide receiver now. So the Falcons were as high as 2.5 and now sit at 2 and 46.5. Bears, Commanders, a very interesting game, and the game that has probably the most interest. Jaden Daniels looks like he is going to go. He's warming up. He cleared this morning, and yesterday he practiced. So looks like he's going to be in the lineup. And game open pick last Sunday night. Then the adjustment with the Bears as 2.5. Even some folks laid it early as a 3 point, as high as a 3-point favorite. Right now, the Commanders 1-point favorites and 46. So we definitely we need the Bears in this one right now. Jets Patriots, big teaser game. A lot of folks teased the Jets down in this game, but if pros tease this game, they'll take 2 touchdowns. So. But right now, the Jets 7-41. Not a lot of movement there. Bills, Seahawks, Metcalf out, holding steady. Bills 3-point favorites on the road, 45, which is down 3 points. Bigger move on the total there. Saints, Chargers, no Hill. I think Hill and Olave are back. So
yes, no Carr.
Yep.
But yes, Olave and Taysom Hill.
Yeah. So with Hill, I mean, not that he's going to be under center a lot, but he does give them options, right? In their offensive scheme. There's definitely a need at the Chargers here. This game, even though it did get bet up from the 7.5 earlier in the week, more money has come in on the Saints with a little bit of health in their favor. 41.5 on this total. Not a lot of movement there. Just uptick on the over. Eagles, Bengals, 2.5. Pretty steady here. There was an early week move to the Bengals with 3 that didn't last very long, and right now, and it's held pretty steady at 2.5 for the better part of the week. 47.5 on the total. Chiefs, Raiders. DeAndre Hopkins comes to the Chiefs. A little more money on the Raiders here. I'm not really surprised here. Game open 9.5, went to 10 again very early in the week, but has held steadily at 9 for the past few days. Panthers, Broncos. Guess who we need in this game?
You need Carolina.
No, really? What makes you say that? 7.5 on the opener last Sunday night. The game's up to 11. And it's an afternoon game, so depending on how the morning goes, it'll probably have some carryover to it. And big need. And the Panthers, listen, a lot of things, obviously, we've talked about with the Panthers, but now injuries. Yes. Bryce Young coming back in, and a lot of his, I guess we could call them weapons, are missing from the lineup. So 40.5 there, which is down a 1.5 for the total. Cowboys, Niners look, kind of two-way. Probably right now, a little bit of a need for the Cowboys as they sit at 4.5-point favorites. Game did open at 5, but again, this game is the game tonight. Both teams dealing with injuries, and this morning, but mainly this afternoon's carryover will impact that. And the Steelers open as 7-point favorites against the Giants tomorrow night, and more money on the Giants right now. But again, everything will be going to this game. Right now, the game sits at 6. No movement on the total. Lowest total on the board at 36.5.
All right.
You got the updates.
Well done.
There they are.
All
right.
As always, thank you.
Enjoy the games. We'll see you at the window.
Yes, we hope.
Thank you, Vinny.
Hopefully we will. Hopefully we will. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, Alex and I will roll through the rest of the card on an NFL Sunday, getting you ready for Week 8 here on Sports by the Book.
South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White. Big thanks to Vinny for hopping in, as he always does, here on these NFL Sundays. Alex, let's keep it rolling here, and we start in Tampa Bay. We already saw this matchup, wacko 36-30 game on a Thursday night. where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had that game won multiple times and found a way to blow it multiple times. Kirk Cousins threw for over 500 yards, and the Falcons won that one. And really, that's as critical of a result as there is right now in this division because of what happened to Tampa on Monday night this week, where forget that they lost the game. They were an underdog. They were supposed to lose that game based off what the market said. But they lost both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. We don't expect to see Godwin again this year with a dislocated ankle. We don't expect to see Evans at least until late in November at this point with the hamstring aggravation that he had in that game. And now here you are today where Baker Mayfield and company are still only a 2-point home underdog in this game without their two best pass catchers. Here's who Tampa is throwing to today at the wide receiver position without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, and then, of course, the tight ends. The other wide receivers are Raheem Jarrett and Ryan Miller. This is a gigantic difference for Baker Mayfield and company. And you know what? I think Atlanta, who struggled against this offense the first go-around, would expect them to be a lot more sound in this game. And also, too, the Falcons are coming off just a horrible week last week where they were thoroughly dominated at home by Seattle. Alex, this would only be a play-on-the-road favorite, but it's still Kirk Cousins. It's still the Atlanta Falcons. It's still a divisional game, even though, again, these short road favorites have been awesome this year in the National Football League.
This is a really tough handicap. Everything that you just put out there, the revenge for the Bucs, I mean, they should have had that game. They should have won that one. Not really having the wide receivers. But, I mean, this offense has been very good, and they've leaned on their run game as well with White and Bucky Irving there. So I think they will be able to put some points on the board. I don't know what to do. I mean, their offense, they're scoring on 33% of their offensive drives. Of course, now we don't have the wide receivers there. Defensively, they've given up 26%. On the flip side, the Falcons just 23 on both sides. So I don't trust laying the points with Atlanta here. It's a stay away from me, but maybe lean to the over because I do think we'll see points from both teams. I think Kirk Cousins will have a much better game than we saw against Seattle, and I do think that the Bucs will be able to hang around in this one.
Anything's in play in these NFC South games. Anything, except for Carolina winning. Oh, sorry, Panthers fans, but look, this is just again tough matchup. I would lean to Atlanta, but again, they look so bad last week at home against a team that's very similar to now. Maybe not now without the wide receivers, but the teams Seattle and Tampa pretty similar teams at this point.
But as we always say, they're never as bad as they looked the week before.
It's true. It's true. But Tampa again, those wide receiver injuries are just they're crushing.
Yes,
just so crushing to lose those two guys.
Well, especially those are Baker Mayfield's go-to. And
two best players on the team, basically.
Kate Otten might be a good prop to look at because he does like to go to his tight ends as well.
Let's go to the next game on the Vegas rotation numbers. We're bouncing a little bit out of order because they put the numbers up too early on these games, but that's a different discussion for a different time. The Bears and the Commanders. So this one's moved all over the place. Jaden Daniels, as of right now, from Tracy Wolfson of CBS, of course, the number one crew that's on that game today. Jaden Daniels arriving at the stadium in the next few moments. If he already hasn't, he's going to go through a full pregame warm-up. If it's good enough, he's going to play. If it's really bad, then you would look at Marcus Mariota here. Our guy Ryan McCormick the whole week was convinced that Jaden Daniels was not going to play, which I didn't quite buy because they normally with the younger guys, they shut that down earlier in the week if they're not close. This was as high as Chicago 3 because of that. I did take 3 with the Commanders earlier in the week, just as a number take, more so than anything. Now it's Commanders 1. I would strongly consider if this got higher, trying to middle this thing, actually, Alex, because I feel this is going to be a very tight game. These teams are pretty even. Chicago's off their bye. Commanders are off, even though they played last week. They didn't have to exert much effort in a demolition of Carolina a week ago. I'm just curious to see what Jaden Daniels does. Just curious to see how he looks, more so than anything, assuming he goes. Caleb Williams has been awesome the last 3 games. really has seemed to turn the corner after that really slow start to his rookie campaign. This would be nothing at these numbers right now, Alex, because I have that 3 in pocket on Washington from earlier in the week.
I did jump in on Commanders at plus 2.5. That's funny that you said that, because I was thinking waiting for in-game and trying to get a better number on the Bears to have a middle between these two. Commanders, one thing that we haven't really talked about, and I brought up that Carolina and the Jags and them being the worst teams in allowing offensive touchdowns at 30% or higher. But really, the Commanders' defense has turned it around, and they are doing much better. They're 16th ranked right now in total yards allowed. So I thought that even if it was Marcus Mariota, they would be fine in this game at home. I think there's a coaching advantage for Washington as well. So I do like the Commanders if you're getting those plus points, but now at this number, nothing for me either.
Yeah, just tough now at this point. And again, I'm curious, just the rib injury. Very uncomfortable more so than anything for Daniels. Just very interested to see how he moves around against the Bear defense. Again, Bears pass rush is good.
Yes, they are very good too.
I hope people have realized that at this point, because this is about a year long now that the Bears pass rush has been in the top tier of the league. So just keep that in mind as we go through here today. All right, let's go to Foxborough next. A pair of teams that are not any good right now. Combined 3-11 between the Jets and the Patriots right now. This is basically the Jets season. You lose this game, see you later. It's all over. If you win this game, you at least keep everyone with you for another week. New England, we know what it is at this point, Alex. They're probably the worst team in the NFL other than Carolina. This is now start number 3 for Drake May. Looked a lot more comfortable last week. Now I think the defense quality helps. Houston's defense much better than Jacksonville's defense, and now going back to a defense that's much better than Jacksonville's defense this week, even with some injuries on the Jets' defense at safety today. New England will also have the first time this year that they will have the same starting offensive line for 2 straight games. So that is a little bit good on the New England end. At 7, look, the Jets should not be favored by 7 on the road against anyone, but these Jets really drilled this New England team the first go-around 24-3, and quite frankly, it should have been worse than that. It's the one game where Aaron Rodgers looked like Aaron Rodgers this year. This is a good old-fashioned stay off. I got to see what I'm getting out of either of these teams before doing anything.
And then, of course, you do have the Patriots with Mayo calling his defense soft, and that being around the media.
Happen,
so they'll be ready to go too. But really, their defense has dropped a lot. They're 26th right now in total yards allowed and 24th against the pass, 22nd against the run. I like the Jets here. I know it's laying a lot of points on the road, but like you said, this is their whole season. And another week with Devontae Adams, I think this offense will really be clicking today. So I laid the 7 here with the Jets.
New York 7 on the road, trying to get to 3-5 on the year. Again, New England, hey, look, if you're the Patriots, Drake May looks good and you lose, it's not a terrible thing, because guess what? Travis Hunter might be coming your way in the NFL draft next year if Drake May looks good and you keep losing these games the next few weeks. All right. Now a late afternoon game, and this is a very interesting game that kind of feels like has gone under the radar this week. And that's Buffalo going all the way west to take on Seattle here today. We're waiting on DK Metcalf's status. That's really the biggest thing I'm waiting for in this game on Seattle's end. Look, small road favorites have been awesome this year. We've talked about this all year. They've been great. Seattle, who I was ready to completely jump off the ship with going into last week, just looked awesome in that game. Just really took it to Atlanta. Buffalo, slow start last week, then took it to Tennessee in the last 30 minutes of the game. Alex, this number I thought has been right the whole week. It's a reason that this number has not moved all week here at the South Point. Chris and company put the right number up. This should be Buffalo 3. The total's gone down 3 points, which, again, injuries on the Seattle side. Buffalo's offense actually about as healthy as you could ask at this point. This would only actually be a look to the over in this game, now that this total has decreased 3 points down to 45 for me, Alex.
I don't hate that at all. I actually made it 49, but I took the 3 here with the Seahawks and trying not to overreact from what we did see yesterday, but I do think this is a talented team. I do like McDonald, the defensive-minded head coach that is it trying to improve this defense as the year goes. I'm not too worried about Metcalf with Lockett, and you do have JSN there, of course, too. So I think they have plenty of weapons. I might just be too low on the Bills because I made them a 1.5-point favorite here on the road. Thought there was enough value to grab the 3, but we'll see. I mean, these Bills start slow every week and then really turn it on in the second half. So if that happens again, I'm going to have to raise my Bills number a lot.
Buffalo, look, at this point, the AFC, there's 5 teams that I feel pretty good about making the postseason at this point. The current 4 division leaders, Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, and Kansas City, who we'll get to later. And even though I don't think they're that good, their schedule's pretty soft and they keep winning games. That's Pittsburgh. Those 5 teams, I think, right now are in great shape to be in the AFC playoffs. Will I have the 2 slots? Who knows at this point. But Buffalo, a win today for Buffalo, especially if either Miami or the Jets go down today.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's a long shot for both of them since Buffalo went on the road and beat both of those teams this year. Buffalo could be talking about wrapping this division up in a month at this point with a win today and some help along the way from some other teams as well. All right, let's go to New Orleans at the Chargers here. Boy, this is a mass unit game, Alex White. Derek Carr not expected to play. The Chargers on their end of things. Well, actually, hold on. I should mention the good news for New Orleans before I go to the Chargers end. The Saints are getting Chris Olave back after a 1-week absence. Olave probably would have been able to play if it was a short week with that concussion. Taysom Hill has been gone for about a month. He's back today as well. So that's the good news for New Orleans. On the Chargers side, you look at what happened last week, and the lack of weapons really did the Chargers in that game. I thought they were the better team for the majority of the game, but they had no one when it was all said and done. And look, Ladd McConkey is expected to play today. Good news. Joey Bosa also expected to play on the defensive side of the ball.
Great news.
This number feels about right. With this now, I would also look to the under here in this game still, too. I know New Orleans' defense has been a mess of late, but that's because they've been on the field a lot.
Yes.
They may be on the field a ton today, but the Chargers kind of feels like this will be a game where Harbaugh tries to establish the run. And this is a real grinder more so than anything. Would only go under 41.5 in this game.
I'm with you. I think that is the only way that you can play this. I mean, we know the Chargers, and like you said, Harbaugh wants to establish the run out the clock, grinder, and they have been very good on defense too, the Chargers. You can't lay 7. I can't lay 7 with the Chargers, even if they are at home. I took a shot with them laying the points against Arizona, and that was on the road, but it's going to be a low-scoring game, and that's a whole touchdown here for the Chargers, even though I think they should win this with Spencer Rattler, and we've seen the play that we've gotten from him throughout the last couple weeks, but it would be money line Chargers if you want to tie them up with somebody, or under for me.
Chargers under more so than anything in this game for the Chargers as 7-point favorites. All right, let's go to a game that's actually going at 10 a.m., which was supposed to be in the middle of the afternoon, got moved up to move back that Bear Commander game. That's the Bengals and the Eagles in Cincinnati here. 2.5. You're starting to see some 3. You're starting to see some 2.5 juice to the favorite. This is the best number you can get on Cincinnati behind us here at the South Point right now. Plus 130 on the money line on the take back for Philly. 47.5. The big news in this game is no T. Higgins. That's the biggest thing, more so than anything, on the Cincinnati front. Look, Eagles are pretty healthy on offense, all things considered. And since A.J. Brown has gotten back, this Eagle offense has started to look more like the Eagles' offense. Again, still some hiccups. Not great against Cleveland. Better against the Giants. Giants are awful in that game, obviously. But there you go, 2.5 on this one right now behind us, but a lot of 3 in the market.
Both offenses really clicking right. The biggest difference for me in this one and why I am on the Eagles is their defense is playing a lot better than Cincinnati's. I still can't trust this Bengals defense. I think we might get into a shootout here. It will be back and forth with these two, but I think that the Eagles can cover this, even with the 2.5, especially with the T. Higgins news, and he will not be going. One thing I do love, though, and if this was a standalone game, I would really be preaching it, but same game teaser here. If you tease that total down to go over a better number, and then you tease the Eagles up, I think that is a great great same game parlay or same game teaser parlay.
Same game teaser parlay. We haven't mentioned that much this year on
Not
the show.
since Super Bowl,
Yeah,
really.
it's been a
which
while.
Everything hit in the Super Bowl, and then we kind of just forgot about it. But that's what I mean. If it was a standalone game, it would be a great play. But
Yeah, real quick, shout out to the chat. Everett, welcome to the chat on Barkley over touchdowns in this game. So he taken Barkley to score once. You're laying a price on that right now. Arthur's in there. Ann's in there on the Commanders. I should have expected that, in all honesty. Duke did not win, but they covered.
yes, they did.
Yesterday in what was a mess of a game, them and SMU. Vicarious Vegas in there. Tommy Green's in there. And then not Sean, not realizing that the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Oilers are the same franchise. That's okay. Detroit has not beaten the Titans since they've moved to Tennessee, which is a good factoid there from Sean. It's been a while since the Lions have beaten that franchise. All right, let's go to the game just down the road from us, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending champions, at the scene of the crime where they won a title a year ago at Allegiant Stadium against the Raiders. Vegas is the last team to beat Kansas City. Of course, Christmas Day, that disaster at Arrowhead for KC, where the Raiders didn't even need a completed pass after the first quarter to win that game at Arrowhead. Now, back here in Vegas, it's 9 behind us. The rest of the market's 8 on this game. Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in the month of October. He has more interceptions than touchdowns this year. I don't care. The one thing that I have not liked with the Raiders, even with Max Crosby back, not getting traded at this point, Mark Davis shut that down for good this week, which is the right move long term. The Raiders talked and talked and talked and talked and talked about one win in December when you have a team that won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then the idiocy during the offseason with the voodoo, just bad franchises do stupid things. And now that we're down to 8 at other shops, this is easy for KC on me. Now, could the Raiders defense show up and just happens to be one of those matchups where KC struggled? Sure. But the Chiefs own the Raiders here. Since this building's been built, Kansas City has now lost here. Kansas City is also winning by an average of 2 touchdowns per game in the games here. They have destroyed the Raiders in this building just down the road. There will be a lot of red in there. I'm on Kansas City. Lay the 8 now. I think you're good all the way to 10, in all honesty, on this game.
Yeah, I do like that 8 now in there. I was looking at first half here at South Point. It's actually 6 for the Chiefs in the first half, which I think is still fine.
Wow. Okay.
But so I'll have to shop around there, and it is a 1:00 Pacific time game, so I have some time. But I like the Chiefs first half because for all those reasons you just mentioned, I think they're going to come out pretty hot. And then you never know in the second half with Andy Reid because he likes to just run the ball and get out of there. So I'm looking first half, but at 8, I think it's a pretty good number on full game as well.
Just the other thing, too, and we haven't mentioned it, Kansas City is the best defense in the NFL right now. And that Raider offense that has been a mess for the majority of the year, other than really that fourth quarter in Baltimore in week 2, Gardner Minshew has not played well. Okay, you kind of getting the whole Gardner Minshew experience. You get some good, but a lot of it is just backup, like high-end backup quality, not starter quality. Not going to see O'Connell for a while with that thumb injury. So just that, look, it's just not a good team. Again, Raiders, I know Raider fans don't want to hear it, but losing is not a bad thing this year for them because there are a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft coming up. And this is probably one of the places Shedeur Sanders would be okay playing. So
Cam Ward?
Cam Ward, Quinn Ewers. There's a lot of guys who could be at the top of that draft at this point. 9 behind us, 8 everywhere else on Kansas City in this one. All right, let's go to, oh boy. Whoops. Carolina's at Denver. Carolina had 24 guys on the injury report this week, Alex White. No Deontay Johnson. No Adam Thielen. Defensive injuries across the board. Oh, Andy Dalton's not playing today. It's Bryce Young, by the way, because Dalton sprained his thumb in a car accident this week. Thankfully, everyone is okay in that car accident. Look, the Broncos defense, you know my thoughts on Bo Nix at this point, guys. You know what they are. But Denver's defense is awesome. Especially that front 7. That front 7 has been great. And they, on top of that, have the best corner in the NFL in their secondary. Yeah, Vance Joseph might get another head coaching job off of this coaching job on the defense. Alex, I want to find reasons to bet Carolina in this game. I just can't get there because I don't know how they're possibly going to score more than 10 points in this game.
No, and I was actually going to look at their team totals and see what we had here at the South Point, but it's just brutal for Bryce Young. I do feel for him getting another start, trying to, make up for how his career started in the NFL, and now he has absolutely nobody to throw the ball to. So it's just a bad situation all around. Broncos are just like the Chargers, though. I can't lay that many points with them. So maybe I'll tie up those two together. What could go wrong? But I do. This Broncos defense, I think they are one of the top right now in the league.
Look, they have been great. And I did not think this was going to be a particularly good defense either. By the way, what's that number?
16.5.
I think I'd go under that.
Yeah,
I think you can do that.
That's okay.
If you can find a juice 17.5, maybe even better. But I don't know how Carolina's going to score in this game. I really just don't know. But look, we talked about it earlier. There are 5 teams in the AFC I feel pretty confident about making the playoffs. The Denver Broncos have a soft schedule and a really good defense.
Yep.
In a weak AFC, Denver finds a way to sneak to 10 wins. They're going to get in at this point, especially with having some tiebreakers over some teams that they might need to catch them down the line as well. All right, let's go to Sunday night, Alex. Niners, 5 now. Deebo Samuel looks like he's going to play, which is shocking to me. He was in the hospital earlier this week for a pneumonia-like illness. Of course, Brandon Ayuk's season is over. ACL and MCL torn. Still no Christian McCaffrey for the Niners. On the Dallas end, no Micah Parsons again. Look, Niners have owned the Cowboys. We know this. In the Shanahan-McCarthy era, the Niners have not lost to Dallas. And when the games are in San Francisco, they're winning by at least a touchdown. Last year, of course, that Sunday night game, they're still scoring a year later in that game against Dallas. I can't do anything here, though. Mike McCarthy also only has 3 career losses off a bye, so he has been great off the bye as well. Nothing. In-game scenarios here for me, even though that total feels a little high at 48.
Yeah, it's tough. I almost got there, almost laid the 4.5 with the Niners. Now I'm not going to jump in at that 5, but because it's tough. I mean, the last time we saw the Cowboys, they were completely embarrassed. But on the flip side, I mean, this is desperation for the 49ers too. They're 3-4 right now. So it's really a tough handicap. I agree with you. I think you could get some good in-game numbers here between these two.
The NFC West is fascinating now because the Rams are alive again, and the Rams already beat the 49ers. You're right, though. This is a game the Niners have to get. If they lose this thing and go to 3-5, that is a very difficult hill to climb. And they have a bye next week. But after the bye here, they're next. Oh, boy. Wow. At Tampa. All right. Tampa. We'll see what Tampa looks like at that point. Seattle. The Niners have had Seattle's number over the last few years. On the road at Green Bay. At Buffalo back-to-back. Brutal back-to-back. Bears, Rams, at Dolphins, Lions, at Cardinals. Not an easy stretch the rest of the way for the 49ers. This feels like a game you got to have where the wheels might come off. And look, this kind of felt like the year they had to do it because this is the last year Purdy's going to be under the ridiculously low rookie contract. They might have some decisions on their hands this offseason because they have been willing to move on from quarterbacks. Not saying they should, but moved on from Jimmy G, moved on from Lance when it was obvious he couldn't play. Again, not saying it would be the right move, but it is a franchise that is willing to make big swings at the quarterback position. All right, last one for tomorrow, Alex. We'll just bring it up real quick because you and your dad, Kenny White, will be on at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Ryan McCormick and I will be on at 3 tomorrow to get you ready for Monday Night Football. Steelers and the Giants in Pittsburgh from 7 to 6 on this game. I'm going to save my pick for tomorrow, but the Giants are significantly better away from home. As we mentioned, Tomlin's been brilliant on Monday Night Football, but he also has 18 career losses as a 6-point or more favorite, which is the most currently in the National Football League by margin.
I'll save my pick for tomorrow as well. But I will just say the Steelers have almost been in my top 10 since the beginning of the year. So it's not new.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting go of it tomorrow night. We'll have the full previews tomorrow on the show. 9 and 3 right here on the channel. All right, that's what we got. Good luck, everybody. Hope everyone can cash some tickets here here at the South Point or wherever you may be betting. Alex, good luck in your contest as well. Drew Dog, Sean, thank you as always. We will see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Alex and Kenny, get you ready for not only just Monday Night Football, Game 3 of the World Series, with the Dodgers up 2-0. We don't know if Shohei Ohtani is going to be ready for tomorrow night in the Bronx after that shoulder injury he suffered yesterday. A whole day of basketball and hockey as well.
Yep.
We'll see you again tomorrow, 9 and 3, right here on Sports by the Book.